Welcome to the People, Passion, and Purpose podcast, where you will hear from creative small business owners in the trenches every single day, talking story, talking lessons, talking failures, talking truth. I'm your host, Nina L. Kovner. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to the podcast. This week, we have one of the raddest human beings that I have ever met in my lifetime, one that I've been trying to get on this podcast for a very long time. This week we have Rebecca Taylor. Rebecca is a hairdresser, an educator, a content creator, a dog mama, and the new owner of Honey Hair Lab.
Yay!
Honey Lab Hair.
You got it for some Honey Hair Lab.
Honey Hair Lab in West Hollywood, my old stomping grounds. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's so funny you said you've been trying to get me, because the second you would have asked, I would have been like, hell yes, I want to do this, because I love you as well. I'm honored. I'm so stoked to talk to you today.
Thank you. So there's, of course, a million things I want to talk to you about. And also, just for context, because this is an audio experience, as I'm not surprised that as we're recording this podcast, Rebecca is
plucking my eyebrows.
Is tweezing. Well, in beauty school, I was told it was tweezing.
You pluck a chicken, you pluck a chicken, you tweeze your eyebrows. You color. You dye an Easter egg. You color
your hair. Right. All those. Gosh, that was over 30 years ago, and I still remember those damn beauty school teachers, who I'm super grateful for. Thank you, beauty school teachers. So Rebecca is doing her makeup because, of course, she has so many important things to do today. So again, thank you for making time. I really appreciate
The important thing for me today is to go to Huntington Beach to see my girl, Steph Smith, because I'm getting my hair done. So that's my level of importance.
I love that. Well, hey, one of the things we're going to be talking about today is self-care. And, you know, it's interesting because that, of course, that term self-care is everywhere. But, you know, I really like to remind people that self-care comes in so many different ways to all of us and means something so different to all of us. You know, like for me, sometimes it's doing laundry.
Absolutely. Getting shit around the house to where you're living amidst chaos. Like I never feel better than when everything's done and I can sit back and look around and be like, oh, these are things I've accomplished, because it really helps with my anxiety. I've been getting increasingly more intense anxiety over the years, as like next year I'm 40, but like just getting simple shit done, like dusting or things that you haven't done for a while, and washing the baseboards. And when you get those things done, you're like, I can breathe. Like I feel accomplished. Like I know what you mean. Like it's just, self-care is just like getting yourself in the right headspace to be productive and positive and like get that flow going.
And that also means getting your hair done or your lashes done, or, you know, so it's just such a good reminder. And since self-care was on my list of a million things I want to talk to you about, when did you first begin to see the value of showing up for yourself? Such a loaded question, but
is a loaded question. I knew that's hard. Like, it's hard to know the lineage of when to start. Like, I really was like kind of, you know, it's hard to say, you know, I was overweight my entire life, you know, so I always had in my mind, like, oh, well, once you become thin, your whole life will change. That's all you need to do. I had like really gappy, fucked up teeth my whole life. I was like, once you get your teeth fixed, you know, that'll change your life. You'll blah, blah, blah. And what I've noticed is once I started, you know, reaching these levels of my life and in my career where I could finally afford to get these things done for myself, I found that once one thing would be done, there would always be another thing. Once I lost 100 pounds, it's like, okay, now how do I, you know, it opened up this whole can of worms mentally of like, why do I keep trying to fix? And so I'm trying to give you the abridged version, but just like as I got these things done, I realized there's always going to be something else you're going to want to fix about yourself. So instead of looking outwardly, and of course I care about my health, especially recently I got a health scare. I found out I was officially diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease this week. And then I've got to get a biopsy on my thyroid because they found precancerous cells. So, your whole fucking mindset just switches like that. And you're like, you know what? Outward doesn't mean as much as it does inward. So like physically, I just want to be healthy. Losing 100 pounds did not fix all my problems. To anybody that thinks, out there, if maybe you're overweight, like, oh, if I were just thin, if I were just this, if I were just that, it would fix all my problems. It won't. And sometimes, and in my case, it brought up new things, dredged up trauma. And so I'm just trying to, I see a therapist, I see a Reiki healer, I go to yoga regularly. I do the things like you said, I try to be productive. I have days off where I am just like off the phone and I'm really trying to not have guilt about having much needed off days. And if I just want to chill on the couch and play with my dogs, that's self-care because you're not in work mode 24/7.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to be gentler on myself and do more inward work than outward work because I found there's always going to be something else you want to fix. There's always going to be some way you feel like you can improve yourself. With that being said, I am a proponent and very outwardly, I'm outspoken about the fact that I get my Botox done. I get my lips done. I don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. I'm like, if it makes me feel good, it makes me feel good. But there's a balance. And that's good friends are for, because like there for a while, I think I was getting a little dysmorphic with my lips when I moved out here. A good friend of mine, Jessica Bosley, was like, girl, you're looking like a clown. So thank God you gotta have some good friends. You can't have a bunch of yes men that's like, yeah, get them bigger, girl. Like, you gotta like rein that shit in. I get my little things done, but like ultimately where the real work is done is internally and is with like, dealing with past trauma and dealing with the hard emotional shit and, along with the physical health and then the mental health. I feel like just be kind to yourself. Ultimately, that's the big picture. Just be kind to yourself and allow yourself to have self-care days, moments, practices without having any guilt associated with taking time on you. Because if you're not where you need to be, you're going to be shit for everything else you have to do. It's that saying, like if your cup isn't full, how do you have anything left to give to other people? I'm butchering it. I'm horrible with like whatever they're called, sayings and shit. But I couldn't even think of the word of what they're called. Blah blah blahs, anecdotes. I don't know. I'm horrible with them. But your cup has to be full too to quench the thirst of others, if you will.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And it's interesting that you brought up the guilt thing because that really goes back to codependency, which is the foundation of the book that I wrote, my awesome as fuck boundary book.
Because I have been I think I'm still codependent. So I have.
Most of us are. most of us are, but it's definitely a common theme amongst creatives, most definitely amongst people in the professional beauty industry, that using that term, I'm just a people pleaser. And it's like, that's actually like a red flag for codependency, right? Like, caring about people and wanting to deliver awesome experiences is not the same as people pleasing.
That's empathy, right?
It's good business too. You know what I mean? Like, of course you want to serve your people. Of course you want to create awesome experiences. Of course you want to be generous. Of course you want to be available. Of course you want to be all those things. But like you said, you can't do that to the detriment of your own well-being. And that's the thing, is that people look at this thing, people pleasing. Well, yeah, I'm going to work 19 hours and then I'm going to be resentful and angry and burnt out and exhausted and then say, why am I so burnt out, angry and exhausted? And it's like, well,
thing of yourself and you're empty. That's why.
Right. Exactly. And, I love how Brene Brown talks about the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I did something bad and shame is I am bad. And if we think of guilt, I did something bad, Setting a set schedule, that's not doing something bad. Saying no because you have other obligations, that's not bad. Like, none of that's bad.
Girl, I'm learning that. And like, I love that your book is about boundaries, because I've really come into just recently, just like setting boundaries, especially, like I'm sure you saw that I posted, and I know we're going to get into a little bit of this about me choosing to leave my color line, which was a very difficult decision, but that was me putting boundaries in place and, having many conversations. I'm very transparent with any business dealing, any partnership, any body, any human, any person I work with. And once like the needs of the line weren't being met, once I felt the educators were being kind of used, like the boundary was, after many attempts, is that I'm not going to settle for this anymore. And as sucky as it was to leave something I loved, that I had to put a boundary in the place. And the boundary was like, this, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. I'm not going to extend the exploitation of the artist. I don't care if my name's on it. I don't need it for ego. I don't need a line for ego. It would have been great. We were getting into Salon Centric. Isn't that any stylist's dream, to get a product with your name on it in Salon Centric? So, but the overlying message to me was like, I can't stand behind something that I don't believe in and that doesn't line up with my integrity. So that was a hard line in the sand with boundaries. And after our last conversation and your broadcast in Hef Academy about boundaries, like that all ties in.
Mm-hmm.
It might be to say no, because again, we're people pleasers and we have that imposter syndrome. And if I say no, then this will fuck up this opportunity or this chance. And I can't say no. I always have to say yes. Cause I see that floating around. You've seen those memes or whatever, like say yes to everything. The tides always change with like, whatever, like mental health and what you should do in your business. But there for a while, I was seeing like always say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Oh, not really.
Well, I think it really lacks context because, it's interesting. I recorded that podcast episode about, exposure doesn't pay the bills. And, of course, that was kind of clickbait in terms of the title, because there are nuances. It is layered. There are situations when saying yes is the absolute right thing. But there is also as many situations that we want to say no to. And so much of it has to do with where you're at in your career and what your objectives are with your career. Your objectives in your career and mine are different, right? Mine when I was 25 are so different than mine at 53. So, I was just reading an article that J-Lo and Shakira were not paid appearance fees for their Super Bowl performances. And so like somebody, just like without any context or understanding could say, are you fucking kidding me? Like the NFL they're so problematic as it is, but they have all this money and obviously it was an incredible performance and they're, the top of their game. And why would they do this for quote unquote free? And the explanation is that most all performers are doing this for quote unquote free. Of course, all the expenses, production, all that's paid for, but they get such a lift in their music sales, in their appearances, in their merch, in their, all the other businesses, that they obviously are smart business people and made a decision that this is a good investment for me.
And they're blowing up online, and it was such a powerful performance in it.
So
and
powerful.
I read an article from an actual exotic dancer, and she felt like J-Lo being on the pole actually like degraded and like with mockery of sex work and everything. And like there's just so many points of view from so many people, and obviously there's going to be there's going to be 40 sides of the fence, but I personally thought the performance was empowering. I thought these two women were amazing. That's my personal opinion. And for them for free, they are smart as shit, because how many times are you seeing J-Lo and Shakira in NFL performance, whether it be good PR, bad PR, people like this woman that wrote the article saying she didn't like it. And, it's not the right kind of advocacy for, sex workers and everything, they are smart, because no matter if they're being talked about, whether it's good or bad, they're being talked about. So yes, I do loads of things for free because I know either it's like a relationship I've made with people. Like, for instance, Jenny Strebe, big ups to Jenny for air. I'm so proud of her for getting into Salon Central all herself. She just wrote me this morning to come to their next gathering, and it wouldn't be a paid thing. I would have been happy to do it had I already not booked something with Lisa Loves Balayage, but there's so many things I do for free. I do all my model content for free. There's no exchange of money. Like, I say yes to so many things that feel good or are building relationships, are, like certain things. Not everything has to be paid. There's a time and a place.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk about in my video with me leaving the line. I kind of shed some light on something that for some reason isn't talked about and is taboo. It's like, it's not a freaking secret by now in this industry that artists are paid to post. It's not a secret that there are ambassador programs where brands pay artists. Like, can we just like cut the shit and talk about it for what it is, So that was my moment of just like, let's talk about this. It is dialogue that's healthy and should be had, and is very informative to stylists that may not know otherwise.
Yes, I I want to talk about that too. But before we move on to that, you had mentioned the sex worker that was upset, and I totally understand that. And for people that are like, wait, what? The biggest issue for sex workers right now, well, besides all the obvious, just the lack of understanding and lack of support and lack of safety and lack of, protections and all of that, is the SESTA FOSTA rule that is really, really hurting legitimate sex workers. And so educate yourself. You can Google it. And it's legit. And when there are marginalized communities out there that are being punished for doing wonderful work, it's kind of hard to see that. And so I understand where that point of view is coming from.
Because what her stance was, and yes, and I'm not going to remember the Festa Pesto. I know what you're talking about. I'm just not going to say it right.
No, I got it.
Not pesto, but it's the legislative bill that Trump implemented, and it's really fucking him over. And basically, the club is getting more than the dancer at this point, and it's just really screwing over sex workers in general, and it's making them not visible online, and like just completely like shutting them down when they're trying to do what they do. And I have zero judgment when it comes to sex work. I'm like female empowerment to the max. I'm like, do your thing. It really, like you said, it's dangerous. It's this, that, and the other. I think her point of view was that J-Lo, and especially in her movie Hustlers, was like kind of like using the whole realm of sex work in that industry to glamorize and capitalize on it and have it be, especially for Super Bowl, it just being this marketing tactic, just, ooh, I did this one little quick pole dance.
As opposed to activism and allyship and stuff like that. Yeah.
And she's and from my knowledge, like J-Lo and even Cardi B, who is very well known for her background, have never really spoken up and been an advocate for sex workers in the industry, and like never really shed light on it when they have had that platform. So I see where she was coming
from. Totally. Absolutely. Okay. So now we're going to completely shift back to you had mentioned, it's no secret that people get paid to post. Yeah, no, it's not a secret. Influencer marketing is a thing. It's always been a thing. Before the internet, it was a thing. So here's the soapbox that I've been on for several years, is that no one should be surprised, because if you follow both the platform's terms of service and the Federal Trade Commission's actual rules, then you'd have full disclosure. So it's a paid post.
You're supposed to hashtag ad legally.
Well, it's beyond that, though. It's beyond that, because now Instagram and Facebook, well, not now, this has been years, they have the tags. They have the branded content tags. So there is zero excuse to hide the fact that you are being paid. Content creation is a thing. It's awesome. If you love a brand, post about it. But if you are breaking federal laws and you are breaking platform terms of service, you are breaking trust and potentially going to lose your account over it. So it's like you lose the trust of your audience and you lose your Instagram page. Like, what the fuck? Like, just stop fucking doing it. And if you're an influencer, you should know better. And if you don't know better, then talk to someone that does know better. Of course, Passion Squared customers are very clear on these rules because it's a big fucking deal. And so anyways, I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk about you leaving your own color brand.
Yes.
And when you talk about artist advocacy and educator advocacy, what does that look like to you? Like, what if you could like literally like in this moment design the quote unquote perfect brand that supports artists and educators, what would that look like to you?
Well, I'll tell you, the construct and the culture that I was building and had built for Trillion Tones was what I thought to be the perfect construct for advocating educators, giving the platform that they deserve, giving them the traveling opportunities, giving them chances to come do huge collaborations in Finland, getting them paid what they were deserved. The whole culture was built by me and Jessica and the artists, what we call the Trill Tribe. The problem was all the promises that were made to me by the brand, I would then pass along to the educators, and then I don't have the financial resources because I am only, it was my color line. I built the culture. I was lucky enough to have the freedom to do that. Everything was going smoothly until all of these promises started either being like, no, I never said that, or, getting a new contract that was nothing like the original contract I was given, which I'm not going to get into the details of that because that might thing, but I had built a culture that we believed in, and the educators did organically post because they really wanted to, and it gave them opportunities. The construct was, let's say there were 20 educators. So every time we did an international show, I would go to each show, and along with me would be another educator. So they would be in a rotation. So let's say it would be Greece, Dubai, Hong Kong, Vegas, blah, 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 blah. So each educator would have the opportunity and get paid a day rate. So it was what I loved. And so it gave these artists, and their follower count didn't matter. I mean, micro influencers sometimes now, that's the term they're given, big are more, sometimes get more engagement than me, because their followers are, I'll just be real for a minute. When I didn't have so many followers, I feel like I got more engagement because people felt like I was more like them. So the larger follower count that you get, what I felt like is that people don't think you're, and I am who I am online. And I do have, a fiercely loving, supportive, group of people that support me, but I got more engagement when I didn't have any followers because I don't know what it is. It's just like when you have a lot, they feel like they're not talking to you anymore. They feel like that maybe their comment will get hidden. So what's the point? Like the engagement is just like not the same way it was. So micro influencers are very, very, very valuable because they have a very active group of people supporting them. So that's just the way it works. So micro influencers were very, very valuable. And just to get back to it, the culture was there. The promises I was making them weren't coming to fruition because I didn't have the resources. So I was being lied to and like strung along. And so that was the culture I built. And when I mean advocacy for stylists, I feel like if they're representing your brand and they're posting about your brand and they're using your color and they're creating content and they're doing all of this for free, first of all, they shouldn't be doing it for free if the company is benefiting financially. So I told this company from jump, the way it works in the States and many other markets is that if you have people working for you posting, they get paid to post. That's the way it works. And so I don't know if this was it was falling on deaf ears. Like they never once paid anybody to post. There was never any basically, we're not going to do it as much as I pushed. They're like, the best that we could do is to do these retreats and for them to get paid their day rate for doing shows. That was the best that they said they would do. And so once things progressed and once I saw even those needs and promises weren't being met. About year 2, when we didn't have the second year's retreat, I just started, I mean, what do you do? I mean, so at this point, I was just like, I'm going to bounce if you don't change this. I can't stand behind a product that I'm working with this group of artists that is like going hard for this brand and me. And like, not only as a personal favorite, but because they love the product, I'm like, I feel yucky. I feel like I'm being a liar. I feel like what I'm promising isn't happening because I don't have the resources. So by that point, my integrity was completely being fucked with, toyed with. I was feeling like a fraud. So at that point I said, you know, if this isn't done by this time, I'm walking. And don't say I didn't warn you, because there were probably 3 conversations prior to this when they kept reducing their day rate from, like, I think the original agreement was $750 for the day rate, and that's international travel. That's nothing for people that make $2,000-$3,000 in the salon every, you know?
Yeah.
So like went down to something ridiculous like $150 a day. And I'm like, you know, so that is the reason I left. It was, you know, I could have kept on, you know, if I didn't give a shit about stylists and my friends and, you know, was looking out for me. But be quite honest with you, Nina, I wasn't getting paid jack shit for any of these shows either. Every single show I did for free. And then I got a small percentage of sales, but I don't know what the sales were. I was given like a word, you know, like a note, literally like on your iPhone, you know how you just type shit out on note. That was what I was given. And like, okay, here's your percentage of a made up number potentially. So like, it was not lucrative for me, but it wasn't about making money for me in the beginning. It was a passion project. It was the fact that I had this line that I could build this culture and just, it was an innovative, completely new line. And so I was all about it for the love. And this is what I mean about boundaries and picking and choosing where you put your energy. This was one of those things I said yes to not try to get rich, but to build a culture that I wanted to see in this industry. And then a huge thing before I, you know, wrap this up, my dream for this line and what happened and is this was a line that was meant to be used with all other lines. I am all about inclusivity.
Yes, you are.
While these artists are using pulp or, you know, Pravana or whatever the hell, there were no like exclusivity. There were no contracts for one. They could use and talk about whatever they wanted. There wasn't any minimum posting. How can we do that when they're not getting paid to post, you know? So this line was made not only when it comes to marketing, but just the way it's to be used was made to be mixed with other lines. So it could sit in any salon and be mixed into any line. So that's what I mean about inclusivity. Inclusivity with not only the product and its usage, but also the artist. They can use whatever they want. I could use whatever I want. As you saw, I used Redken and Trillion Tones at the same time. And, you know, I felt like it was all there. It was all there. And and I said it in my video, we went to New York. It was literally myself and Jessica Bosley. And then the other guys from the CEOs of the company came, but I kept like kicking them under the table. I'm like, please let us handle this. Please let us handle this. Like, just, we know what we're doing. So we like pitched in front of a boardroom of all the head honchos of Salon Centric and the L'Oreal offices, Shark Tank style, landed that damn deal, got into Salon Centric. And then what kept happening is that, okay, your date that you're supposed to find a warehouse in California and hire new people. Cause at this point, literally it was Jessica and myself running this brand, social marketing, everything, literally everything. So like you cannot run a new brand with 2 people, you know what I mean, that aren't getting paid very well, to be honest with you. So, and then off the skin and the, you know, the back of like all these other artists that are giving you free promotion. So, yeah, we were going to get into Salon Centric. It was perfect. Everything, you know, ideally would have went through and been awesome had it got to the point where it really messed with my integrity and I had to walk away because that's not what I stand for. That's not what I want to be associated with. And I sure as hell, as cool as it would have been to get in Salon Centric, I'm not going to go into Salon Centric having all these problems not be resolved and then it to be a shit show in my reputation. So I walked away from potentially one of the biggest things, you know, on paper that would look cool, you know, to have my own color line, Salon Centric. But you know what? the integrity part of it meant more to me than the clout or the bragging rights or the fact that I could walk into 600 and something SalonCentrics and see my name there. That's not as important to me as it is taking care of my stylist, my peers, my equals. And I tell people this all the time, like, that's great that you have people that you look up to, but please don't idolize or like fangirl. Like, we're all humans. We're all doing the same shit. We just may have different opportunities and a different follower count, but we don't walk around with our fucking follower count stamped through our forehead. Like, we're all doing this shit together, and we're all, we all have the same kind of common goal. We want to create art. We want to make our guests or our models or whatever, our brands, whatever, we want to make them happy. We want to make ourselves fulfilled. We're just in this together. And so to put people on platforms and idolize them and feel like you're lesser than them, I just always preach, like, we're equals. We are peers. And that's why I always call people friends, peers. I don't ever say fans, followers. I just don't like that. I just think that we should not maybe idolize people so much, because we're all just going through the same shit. So I tell people that all the time. I think I answered your question 10 minutes ago and went off on a tangent, but like, that's what I mean about advocacy for stylists.
Yeah.
I will always be for the stylist first, the brand second. That's just the way, and the brands know that. And that is what it is. And that's who I've always been. I've always shared my formulas online before that was so taboo. And like, I'm not sharing. Remember the time of like, oh, I'm not telling my secrets online. I'm not sharing formulas.
Well, I remember it from offline. I remember it from before the internet.
That's what I mean. Like, would never like, if Sally down the street called, you're like, oh my God, like maybe I got one of your new clients, or I saw somebody, and what would you use, or what did you do? And I remember in my small community in Florida, like, oh, God forbid you should ever give out one of your formulas because, stylists don't share or whatever. So like, we were on the precipice of that whole like shift. It was like Guy, Tang, and myself, we were best friends ages ago. So like, while we haven't been close in a while, and I wish him well, we don't have any bad blood or anything. People just grow apart. He was a mentor to me in many ways. And, when starting out, like I met him on MySpace, which went to Facebook, we went to Instagram, and da. But like, I've always shared everything. And I think that's what's gotten me to where I am, is like, there's never been any like, I'm not telling you my secrets, because every canvas is different. Every situation is different. What harm is there in giving free education and free, just sharing your shit? Like, sharing my shit is undoubtedly how I got to where I am today, is just being open and sharing and giving, and just like, I want to share. Education is my passion. That's, I think 6 years ago, more than that. I mean, I've been an educator 2 years out of school is when I started with Joico, and I was with them for 7 years. So I have that manufacturer background. So I'm on one of those weird cusp people. So like, everybody talk about, oh, you're just an Instagram stylist. Like, before all that, I was on social media, but like, things didn't start happening with social media until closer to me moving out to California almost 6 years ago. So I was like,
it's interesting how there's, I always go back to context. It's like, I totally get it. Being younger, you only have the lens that you have. But, there was a beauty industry before the internet. And thank goodness there's people like myself and yourself that actually, still remember that, just to help the kids a little bit with perspective and context and all those things. Because it is so easy to get lost in this myopic view of what the definition of the beauty industry is. And it's just, it's so interesting to me to watch it from where I sit, Because
you've been in the industry a lot longer than I have. You got 13 years on me on this planet. I've been a hairdresser for about 16 years. I know you started early.
Yeah.
Kind of went into the coaching thing. And
I started in 87 and was... 1987, I know. And I became an educator right out of beauty school, similar to you. And within 2 years, I was working as a brand manager at a distributorship, and then went straight to the manufacturer side. So I've been on the business side way longer than I was ever in the actual doing hair in the salon side of things.
Which gives you like such a wealth of knowledge to do what you do now through coaching. And I'm really glad you took that route, because you have so many valuable, you just have so much life experience and business experience and things people need to hear, because there's technical shit all day long. You can go to technical look and learn hands-on classes, but I love that there's just like this sort of just rise of, coaching and like focusing on the mental and the business and the boundaries and everything that you're doing. I feel like is so imperative for what we do, because so much of what we do is mental, emotional, cerebral. Like it's people, it's connections, it's the business. It's like that needs to be touched on. And so that's why I'm so glad that you do what you do. Yeah. And so many others like Elizabeth Bay and Jamie C. and a bunch of my friends are really focusing on the coaching aspect of it, because we need that. It's just basically kind of like therapy and coaching and that kind of thing for stylists, like specifically for stylists. So
and also get a therapist.
I have an appointment tomorrow.
I know that sometimes we're like, oh, I have Instagram quotes. Instagram quotes are great. Coaches are great. All that's great. But that does not replace the need for a licensed mental health professional. It will never replace the need for a licensed mental health professional. So speaking of salon stuff, let's talk about the new salon.
All right. Honey Hair Lab. Okay. So I'll quickly tell you how that came to be.
What inspired you with all the things you have going on?
Jesus.
You decided it was time to open a salon.
The universe decided, Nina, and I'll tell you why I say that. So, you know where I'm at, because like you said, this is your old stomping ground.
Yeah.
I moved from little ass Pensacola, Florida, where I owned my first salon. I moved out here. I knew one day it would be cool to own a salon out here, but with everything I had going on and all the shows and the traveling and the multiple brands, like, would there ever be a right time? So I would always walk back and forth. I live on Santa Monica Boulevard and La Brea, so right in the mix. And so I would walk down back and forth Santa Monica, and there would always be this cute kind of shotgun, shop space, and I'd peek in, and this would be months, and I'd peek in, and it's literally right next door is a dispensary, and the other place right next door is a very popular, is Jones's restaurant. Yeah. Love Jones's. Yeah. So, it's a cool joint. So I'm like, if this place came available and the price was right, that's the universe freaking telling me, like, and I live a block away. So, I mean, you don't get any better than that. Mm-hmm. So one day I was walking from yoga, and lo and behold, there was a for lease sign there that day. So that day I called and then set up an appointment with the property manager to go take a look and, all that good stuff. And I was already freaking out. I'm like, I have like pretty meh credit. I don't believe it. For me, I have one credit card for emergencies, but I've never had credit cards. I just feel like if I can't pay for it, I don't want to get into debt through credit. So my credit's meh, put it that way. I have a couple of cars I paid off. So I was like, shit, I don't even know if I can get this. Do I need a cosigner? Do I need a loan? What do I need for this to happen? So, I told myself if I looked at the space and it was what I wanted, which it was right off, I looked, I was like, this is fucking amazing. Exactly what I need. Second thing was like, will I even be eligible for it? Because I didn't want a cosigner. I didn't want to take out a loan. I didn't want any of these things. And when I did a little bit of research, buildings in this area are anywhere between $10,000 and $14,000 to $16,000 a month for the square foot of the space I'm looking at. So they ran my credit. They're like, you're good to go. Your deposit's actually not even that high. I didn't have to take out a loan. I didn't need a partner. I didn't need a cosigner. I didn't need jack shit. It all came from my checking account, and my rent was it's roughly $5,500 for
wow.
So that was the universe again speaking to me like, bitch, this is your salon. So like, that's how it went with my other salon. I quit the salon I was working at the same day, and it was I was just renting, but it was a very tumultuous situation. Like, and I had another stylist there that like hated me. It was like, she felt that she was my nemesis. I could give a shit about her. I'm like, why the hate, but in a small town, competitive stylist, it can be icky. So like something happened that day. I quit, drove around just in my thoughts, and saw a sign for lease and within 30 days opened my first salon. Like when I know, I know. So that's the kind of thing that happened with this. I had a little bit more time, had a little bit more like, financial resources and other resources. And so we had the salon. Oh God, was it a nightmare with like the contractor and everything? But all in all, it was about a $75,000 investment. And I partnered with Minerva to get a lot of the equipment. And so I didn't know that the salon was happening, but the salon told me it wanted to happen. And I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad to have a space. I'm so glad to work with the team that I work with. They're amazing people. It's like a family. It's very small. We have 10 chairs, but we have 4 stylists. So I'm not in any hurry to like we want to hire sign out. I feel like people will come organically, and if they fit in, they fit in. And I love this. I love the small vibe. I like the, I love not the small vibe. I love the small team, just the energy we have amongst the people we have. So, and then we have guest spots. Like I had somebody in from Chicago the other day where I taught a class. Amanda Lieberger, the Harry Godmother, we did a collab the other day. We have classes there. Christopher Benson and I are going to do a class in a couple of weeks. It's large enough to where we can put 50 people in there for look and learn classes. Exactly. So I'm using it as a venue as well, which is perfect. So that's how that came to be, and all the branding and marketing. First, I was going to call it like Olive and Otis or Otis and Olive.
The babies.
Babies, exactly. But then something just came to me about honey. I just love sacred geometry, and I love like the honeycomb. And I guess the thing behind that is that it's just organically, perfectly found in nature. It's like nature just made it perfect the way it is, So I love the whole imagery of the honeycomb. And then my grandfather passed away a few years ago. My grandmother passed away last year, and they would call it, their pet name was Honey. So it was honey, 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 honey. So Honey Hair Lab was, when you know, and I have a marketing degree, so things come pretty easily for me when it comes to that. And so I had a good friend of mine from high school that now works for Nike and Adidas and the Olympics. She did my logo. Everything just kind of just played out. And my partner, my Christopher, my love, he's my business partner. So he did a lot of the stuff around the salon. He's the plant man. He's the plant manager. And we have a shit ton of plants. But yeah, so that's how Honey Hair Lab came to be. And it is a beautiful space. And if you're in the West Hollywood area and you want to interview just for shits and giggles and see if you like the space, we definitely have chairs. So that is why I embarked on a very sometimes stressful, overwhelming project. But, if not now, when? I didn't know when. Was, like I said, I walked by, everything lined up. It was almost something I couldn't say no to. Do you ever have those feelings, Nina, where you're like, I know you do. I know you're very tuned with like like universal sort of like vibes and like the signs,
Yeah, totally.
Like just like signs telling me you're in the right spot. This is the right time. You have to act, because if I'm impulsive, because if I'm not impulsive and I don't act, my internal dialogue is just like a constant with the anxiety all day. I'll think of a million reasons why not. Right. So I have to act. I just have to. And so that's how.
And it's a lease-based salon or an employment-based salon?
Well, I do not want to micromanage or deal with anybody's book. So it is rental. So they rent their chairs.
Okay, gotcha.
I do have an apprentice that's getting out of school soon. And I told her if she wants to start there right away, I'm not going to throw her into booth rental. We already have overflow clients with the few stylists that we have. They're completely booked. That's kind of what I wanted to do. Even though they were rental, I wanted to help use my platform to help them build their clientele. So, awesome. When my apprentice comes, I'll probably work out a commission scenario for her to make it easier for her. But I want her to start with us for a good foundation and a platform, and not just some who knows where. I mean, there's a lot of great salons, but I just want to keep her with me because she's my little baby angel protege. So I don't want her to go anywhere.
I love that. Any advice for someone that is getting ready to do a build out?
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. That was one of the most frustrating things. Like, we did have a great contractor. He was a super sweet guy, like listened, all that good stuff, but just be prepared, especially if it's an old building. They literally dug up our entire flooring to find the plumbing, and then what was supposed to be 2 months turned into 3 months. I think ultimately it was closer to 4 months. Just be prepared. And if you feel like things are off with your contractor, and like just to put it this way, the original bid for what we needed was $16,900.
There you go.
75,000. So, so just know the timeline will undoubtedly be longer than they say. That's just the way it is. If you feel off with your contractor, there's, all the paperwork, all the contracts, get everything in writing, cover your ass, and just make sure if it doesn't feel right, go to someone else. Don't stay with someone because you've already started the project. It could get uglier and messier and more pricey as time goes on. We ended up being very happy with the end result outside of a few little things, but you check around, look at their work, research it, and just be prepared for, you hear this all the time. If you buy a fixer upper, there's going to be shit that you're going to unearth that, we had to redo all the plumbing, all the electrical, literally everything, because this was a space where they don't do anything. Like if the AC goes out, even though I'm renting, that's on me. If the plumbing goes out, that's on me. If something happens, that's on me. Get renter's insurance. You have to by law. You just make sure you're buttoned up tight with all legalities, with all of the contracts. But just know that what you think you're going to pay is not going to be what you're actually going to. So be prepared for that.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. That's great. Still though, at that rental rate in that area and that investment for a build out, I would say you did a great fucking job and congratulations.
Thank you. That was the universe. And it was funny as I was working at a Phoenix Suites, which is similar to like Salon Republic or Sola Suites or whatever. I had first I had a little cave in the middle with no window and dark gray dungeon. Did not spark joy. And then, and then I moved to a slightly larger one with a window, but I was still paying like $400 a week. So when you think about that, I'm still doing pretty good. And I have a space to host classes, whether it be mine or have some other educator come in, it really financially just is great. And it's another labor of love, but it's all ours. It's all mine. There's nobody that has any, tie to it, like any brand relationships. Right. Feels good when it's all yours,
That's so awesome. So, oh my gosh, we've almost been talking an hour, which I knew that was going to happen. What do you have coming up? What's happening? You have an online academy. Of course, I want you to share a little bit about HEF, which I adore. And then what else do you have coming up in 2020?
What do I not have coming up? Okay. So Lord, I've got lots and lots of independent classes that I will be posting about. We have an awesome class in LA with Christopher Benson. He's been the only one to win NAHA Colorist of the Year 5 times in a row. He's amazing. He's my friend. So he and I are doing an amazing class this month, the 24th. I've got classes coming up with Lisa Loves Balayage. I'm doing Hair Love Retreat. I'm doing the ABS shows in New York and Vegas. I'm doing, oh my God, there's so much. It's kind of like a TED Talk for beauty professional people. I'm going to Iran to do that. We're going to Thailand. I want to do what is it? I want to do like not a mission trip from a religious standpoint, but I want to go to Bali to teach basic skills in hair cutting. Love that. And get a bunch of like shears and equipment and bring over to them. So I have that in the works. And HEF Academy, that is a lot of work. That is every single week we have to find another educator. But it's amazing. You could just go to the IG at HEF Academy, HEF Academy. Check that out. I haven't even announced it anywhere, but the next educator next Sunday or Monday, one of the days, is Patty Plymeyer, Queen of the South. She does the best braiding in the world. I mean, I'm being partial, but she's amazing.
That's awesome.
Patty everything. Like Nina's in there frequently.
Yeah, I've been in there a few times.
Yeah, you're a fixture in there now, which we love, and I thank you more. So we've got like branding, coaching, self-care, boundaries, like that kind of thing. We've got technical, cutting, styling, color corrections, textured hair. Like there's nothing that we haven't covered. Barbering, like literally everything. It's $30 a month. $250 for the year, breaks down to $7.50 a week, a broadcast. Once you become a member, you have access to the vault of 300 plus educational videos. And as long as you're a member, you'll be able to get weekly education for as long as we exist, which hopefully will be years and years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have a favorite quote?
Manifest that shit. I say that one a lot. That's up in my back room. It's like one of those little not cork boards, but those boards that you like put the light behind.
Yeah.
I read The Secret ages ago, and I won't forget it because it was 2008. It was an Oprah pick. I read it. It was one of the first books I read, and I really wrapped my head around manifestation and what you believe and the law of attraction and all of that stuff. And if you want something, manifest it and like put your flow and your energy into, this is going to happen, not all the reasons why it can't or it shouldn't or it won't happen to you because of X, Y, and Z. Manifest that shit. So I have a lot of quotes, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
I love that. And where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me. I've kept it simple. When I had my old salon, it was Vivid Artistic Hair Design, which is a mouthful. And I'd go to hair shows and they'd be like, Vivi, Vivid, Vivian. I'm like, oh gosh. I simplified it to just Rebecca Taylor Hair. You can find me on IG that way. And then we have the largest Facebook pro-only group, education group called Hairstylist Education Forum with like 165,000 stylists. So I'm very proud to say we started that 6 years ago and it's the largest one and I'm proud of it. So you can find some education there for free. And then I should get my ass on TikTok, the kids say. But I really do. If we have time, I want to hear your take on that.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a quick take. I think that we should be where our customers are, and we all have different customers. And that's the same thing I say about every single fucking platform. And whether that be Snapchat or Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever. But the funny thing is, and I was sharing this in my social media class at ISSE, is that the beauty industry is hysterical. And I've watched this because, of course, Passion Squared launched in 2012, and it was originally all founded on the social and digital space. And so I know this space really well. And I just remember that, first of all, everyone said Facebook was a fad. Then everyone said Instagram was a fad. And then we finally decided to embrace Facebook and Instagram, and then Twitter launched Periscope. So then everyone ran to Periscope, and then everyone ran to Snapchat, and then IG launched Stories. Everyone left Snapchat and went to IG Stories. So, and then God only knows the names we don't even remember of all the apps that people are like, this is the app. I think that, like anything, be where your clients are. With TikTok, it's interesting though, because we are dealing with a Chinese-owned company that's already has investigations by the U.S. government. And the U.S. military has already been removed and banned from using the platform for security reasons. And all of those things.
Cannibalized by Facebook is what I think, because they are the leaders. They're already in bed with the government. Yeah, they have like trials, like where the government's like, talking about security and privacy and blah, blah, blah. But just like Periscope and Snapchat and everything else pretty much was cannibalized and just taken over by Instagram and Facebook, I feel like the same thing's going to happen with TikTok. Just like how, what's that big one that went away that everybody loved? It was like the short little snippet videos that was like Vine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
but the beauty industry never went to Vine. The bigger populace were, obviously Vine was a huge platform, but the beauty industry is usually a little behind, a little fickle.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't always translate. So where I've seen TikTok in just this short amount of time be interesting as a content creation platform where you create these interesting videos, because there are a lot of content creation tools on TikTok that are not yet available. Yet is the keyword, available on Instagram. Trust me, they're coming. But the content creation tools from TikTok, and then taking that video content and using that on Instagram, or using that on Facebook, or using that on your blog, or using that in other ways. So, I think just like anything, it's a question mark. We have no idea what's going to happen. What we do know is Instagram is going to knock it off. And also anyone that's concerned about privacy or, foreign governments, it's just be mindful. Be mindful that this is not something that we in the United States understand. There are the Chinese government's very different than the U.S. government. And so, it's just, I'm not trying to create fear. Look, I have Alexa. The government can listen to me all day long. I don't care what government listens to me. But that's me personally. I think that people that are concerned with privacy should just be mindful. So we'll see. We'll see. I've been playing around with TikTok since it was Musical.ly, before TikTok bought Musical.ly. I love the platform. I love lots of platforms. It doesn't mean you need to go and put your efforts into that platform. And that, again, that's true of any platform. So I'm glad you brought that up. Rebecca, thank you so much. Your makeup looks beautiful.
It took me the whole hour. I didn't even on this at my makeup, but thank you so much. We got to do this more. I feel like we have more to talk about.
There's still 7 things on my list we didn't talk about. So we will. This is a good start. I have
a question for you. We were talking about self-care and health. We didn't get into that because I really want to talk about the surgery and I don't know,
yes.
I've been experimenting with, and it's a clinic. There's a ketamine clinics of California. It's totally legit. I've been experimenting with the ketamine therapy, and it's really helped me a lot. I'm trying to get off of pharmaceuticals 100%. I know ketamine
that's interesting that you say that, because I can't take pharmaceuticals for my depression and anxiety. And my doctor and therapist have both talked to me about the ketamine therapy. It's interesting that you brought that up.
It is amazing. It took me 6 sessions to really process it and let me figure out, is this helping? It took about 2 weeks for it to really run its course, and it really, really, really helped. So I have another follow-up session next week. So maybe the next time we talk and do one of these,
Let's make it all mental health.
Yes.
Let's do it.
I'm even going to tinker around with a very, very structured microdosing psilocybin I'm wanting to try all these natural remedy methods instead of I don't want to take Xanax. I don't want to do. So
And for anyone that is taking antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, you need to do what works for you. You need to do what your doctors and experts and specialists have recommended. There are also people like myself that can't take antidepressants. Antidepressants made me more suicidal. I've tried them all. And so I'm, like you, wanting to get off them. I'm constantly seeking alternative therapy because as we age, you were talking about you're turning 40, as we age, particularly with menopause, if you do suffer from depression and anxiety, in my experience at this very moment in the last year, it's been the worst it's ever been. And that's frightening. It's dangerous, and so I've been very much working towards finding some alternative treatment. So any treatment that you can find that works for you and helps you, that's the treatment you need to do. And so I would love to dive deeper into that discussion with you.
I will, because when we get together again, I will have gone through I'm doing a long ketamine therapy session. I'm also going to try the microdosing too. So by then I'll have some more information.
That's great. Oh my gosh.
Talk about that and my journey trying to get off of my anxiety meds. And you kind of said, the older you get, the more it's happening. And same with me, I have almost sometimes debilitating anxiety, and I have to take a Xanax to get on stage. Before I would just be blah, blah, blah. And most people conks them out. Me, I feel like Superwoman. I'm ah! So it's so weird how medication affects people.
It really is.
It really is. But we could talk all day.
Yeah, let's do it.
Next topic. So
Rebecca, thank you so much for being so generous with your heart and your brain and your time. And I can't wait to have you back on the podcast. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love you. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, Nina. Love you guys so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. To learn more about Passion Squared, you can visit us at passionsquared.net. You can find us on the gram and on Facebook at Passion Squared. And be sure to subscribe and share with your friends. We're so grateful. Thank you so much for joining us. Have an awesome day, guys. Love you.